YouTubers.
Good morning.
Man, I don't have a taste of the week. Let me think about this. Kathy, test of the week.
No. It worked that way.
Ooh, that sweater's so good.
I couldn't get
I
the.
was actually wearing it for you.
Yeah,
I think it was something colorful.
yeah, that is fantastic. I love that shade of blue.
You should see when I wear it. It looks really good too.
It's definitely vintage. Like,
Oh.
kind of doing an 80s vibe.
So you're just going through your closet and recycling?
I didn't have this since the 80s. Actually, it's fun. Well, because I loved it.
Right.
It reminded me of stuff that I used to have in the 80s.
I don't
So I
believe
keep
that.
asking Jackie to do is go put it on and then put it in the Goodwill if you don't like it. Just her clothes just sit in the closet.
Oh no, you don't know anything about my wife.
I have a serious problem.
You know what, Tom?
Yeah.
Tom?
That is not
Tom,
gonna work.
She's got racks and racks and racks.
Oh no.
Never wears.
So do I.
Yeah.
I got
Not me,
boxes.
man. I go through mine. It's like gone.
Tom, I got boxes that haven't been opened in 30 years.
Of her stuff. Yeah.
That is true.
I have stuff hanging in my
That is
closet
true.
maybe I haven't put on in a very, very long time. And I have way too much.
Here's the thing I don't get. It's a shopping opportunity.
I know.
It's like,
Shop in my own closet.
well, whatever. It's a shop anywhere. Go to Goodwill. It's a shopping
But you could
opportunity
sell
to
it.
revolve your accounts. That's a problem.
Because it's gonna cycle back around and say.
Or one
I don't
year
think
down
that's
the
it.
line.
I don't think that's the reason. Oh, it's going to come back.
No, I might think about it and want to wear it, and then it won't be there in the middle of that.
No.
The toddler clothes.
30-year-old, 32-year-old baby clothes.
I only have one box of that. That's the
Exactly.
Boy, I bet they can't wait.
I know. They're gonna look at those clothes, go, "What is that?"
It's moth food, is what it is. You just like to feed the moths. No more
And
comments.
you know what? It
Exactly.
Oh, that's the
Yeah.
other part. Yeah, that's
I
the
do
other
have-
one too. I have pants like that. Once in the blue moon, I forget. I put them on. I go, "Why can't I close those pants?" Like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm waiting. to
Are
lose
all
that
of your
weight."
clothes red? Just for the football game? Okay.
Is there one today?
No,
Sunday, right? Sunday.
Sunday.
Stan's barbecue. Yeah, I know Stan. Yeah, I know.
Oh,
Oh,
is he from Casey?
He used to play.
the guy that
Oh,
owns
he used
the
to
store.
play.
Fun.
I don't remember his last name. I'm trying to think of it right now. Yeah.
But he used to play for the Chief.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Stan. Pam, our producer will have to look that up.
From BS6 to here.
We used to, yeah.
We had restaurants there, and I had an apartment there for a minute.
The water pressure. You put it down.
No, no. Maybe that's the way to clean out Kathy's closet is to have a slow leak.
That would be an idea.
An untimely flood.
God, you've already done it. It didn't work. Yeah, are we ready? It's going to go fast today. We don't have much audience motivation to do.
I know.
Hey.
They're a motivated audience.
Welcome to the Hot Stove Society show on Cairo. It's Chef Tom Douglas.
And Chef Thierry Rotiro, the chef in the hat.
It's so fun to be here. Pamela, our producer, is here. Sean,
Whoop,
our
whoop.
technical director, is here. Annie's in the kitchen. We have an audience of Dave, did you say? David. We have
David.
an audience of David and Kathy, and I don't know you, young man. Eric is here too. So congratulations on being the ruling the roost here at the Hot Stove Society
I
kitchen.
know, at least we have people in the audience. Wow.
We're coming to you from the beautiful Hotel Andra in downtown Seattle, 4th and Virginia, right above Lola, across the street from our delicious little Dahlia Bakery and Serious Pie, up the hill from Seatown and Etta's. And, you know, we're just Have you been out to the Totem Lake?
Yes, but
Serious
not
pie yet?
not to the serious pie.
Oh, thank you, sir. That's
You know what?
simply fantastic.
I've been to Totem Lake once, and that was about 3-4 weeks ago. I picked up some food. We were going to visit some friends, and listen.
This is getting worse by the second.
No. Listen, I saw the you just opened that week. I mean, come on, who goes
That
to
is 4 months ago.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
said 4 weeks ago.
Oh, well, 4 months ago. Well, never mind. It's like 4 months ago. But time goes by.
Yes, it does.
But in reality, I picked up food at Mamnoon's sister
yeah.
restaurant.
Yeah.
And it was all garnishes because we were going to someone's house and they made the Thanksgiving. That's what it was. So that's how long ago it was.
Well, it's a fun place. Check out on the east side.
It looks good. Your restaurant.
I am
looks
learning
really
my different paths over to the east side, whether it's up through Bothell Kenmore area or whether it's 520 or all the way up to Linwood and back down 405.
good. Right.
Lots of ways to get from Ballard to the east side. Of course, you're listening to us on Cairo. Thanks for joining today. We are live. If you ever want to look in on the show as we tape, we're live on YouTube Live. Or you can go to your favorite podcast app and listen to us anytime you choose. We are so happy to be part of your food-loving life. You wrote that, Pam. That was
Can you tell?
very, very deep.
Yeah, that's not Tom would say that.
No.
Remember, when you do buy a ticket at hotstovesociety.com for our class, it comes with breakfast.
Yeah.
It's not just $25. It's $25.
And coffee.
And coffee is $25 and cold water.
And two funny guys to look at.
Exactly.
Eye
We've-
candy.
We've got a, yeah, that's what people say about me. We've
True.
got a robust lineup of topics today. The gentle grace of cooking in Donabe bowls. And I want to challenge that a little bit because sometimes, one of my favorite dishes is up at Monsoon up on Capitol Hill, and they do that caramelized catfish where they actually have to get this pretty hot to get that caramelization. So I'll be curious.
So you're saying it's not gentle and graceful,
It can be,
or it can
but
be
it can be
more aggressive.
more aggressive. Yeah,
Right.
it's not quite as aggressive as, like, say, a Korean stone pot or something like that. But it's time to prepare candy citrus fruits. God, the market is loaded. I know you did our orange tasting last week, or our citrus tasting, and I went after that and just bought tons of different things.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so it was super tasty. I'm a blood orange fan when it comes to citrus.
Yeah.
If you've never tried them or you're scared of them because they look like blood, don't. They're good. They're acidic.
I'm a
and
fan of
tasty.
my mother's-in-law fresh clementine from her garden.
Oh,
lives in
that
LA.
would be wonderful.
Kathy just went down and brought back some.
And then there's also the debate over pairing wine and chocolate, and we're going to loop Pamela into this. She has done both. She has sold wine, she has made chocolate, she's brewed beer in her career. So,
And there was a time where they all touch each other. So
and she loves champagne. So there's lots of opportunity here to talk about what the heck goes with chocolate. Vegetable butchery techniques. I talked about this on last week's show a little bit about, like, I hate cubed vegetables. So
That really resonated with me, so that's why I had it.
first of all, you don't hate it, you just don't do it well, and that's
I
that's
hate it.
understandable.
I hate it. I hate it.
That's very
I hate
understandable.
I hate cubed hash browns. I hate cubed cucumbers. I hate cubed anything. I hate cubed bread cubes. I like torn. I like the torn. So let's talk about how to make your vegetables real pretty.
You run out of knives.
Real pretty. Creating crave-worthy burnt end briskets for Etta's barbecue. It's been fun to kind of get into the low and slow mode out at the Ballard Warehouse dock. FI PHO FUM with Chef Annie. And lastly, we're going to play our Rub with Love Food for Thought Tasty Trivia Challenge. I'm not sure who's going to jump in today, but if it's Annie, I look forward to the fight because she's got a lot of fight in her. Rub with Love Tasty Trivia is brought to you by Rub with Love Spice Rubs and Sauces and the zingiest toasted shallot mustard you're going to ever find. Let's first talk Taste of the Week.
My taste of the week is those lovely little. Have you ever had finger lime?
I have, and we had the figure. I like the finger limes better than I like that Buddha's hand
Buddha
that we
hand.
had during the citrus tasting
Yeah.
because it's plucky. You know, it's got
Yeah.
a pop to it.
Right.
Each of the little
I
segments.
really love them for the exactly for that reason. The squeeze, the pop you get from it, but more importantly, the brightness you get from those little pops is so
Mm-hmm.
it's like lime caviar if you wanted to describe it as
Right.
for somebody who's never seen it. It's a little pod size of a finger. It's black, and then you cut it in half, and inside is all those little beads, those little pearl,
Yeah.
and each one of them is very intense on a limey kind of flavor, really delicate flavor. So it's a very cool. Again, Kathy was down at her mother in Los Angeles, and she has a bush of those pods, and she brought some back up, and I just love them. I think they're so cool for last minute finishing.
So do you like? I guess the closest thing in my mind is like pomegranate seeds. You know how you can
Right.
can open the pod and get
Same
open.
kind of concept.
But do you use them in the same way when you use them?
I don't juice them. I just use them as a finishing product.
So like when I get a little bite in my salad, it pops in my mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. You keep it as is, and you can use it on a piece of fish, steamed fish. Like you could do a little beurre blanc, put them in the beurre blanc the last minute, and put that over the fish, and then you have this wonderful little limey kind of citrus with a little grated ginger. It's popping, as they say. And then in a vinaigrette situation, it's also really good with a little rice vinegar. You put some of that lime and just a little bit of oil. It could be olive oil or vegetable oil, but you have this wonderful pop. So if you're using it like with endives or something of that nature that has big crunch like gem lettuce or some big heavy lettuce, not heavy but crunchy, it's a really delicious, nice combination. Pops up really nicely. Little tarragon in there. Bingo.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I haven't
Just a little-
seen them in the marketplace here. Have you?
They're at Wajimaya. You can get them.
Okay, I'm
You
driving
can buy
there
them.
immediately.
You can buy them online. They usually come frozen online, and by the way, they freeze really well. I put them in the freezer myself. They freeze really well, and when you want one, you just pop
That's a
them
good
up.
tip.
Yeah, it's a very good because it doesn't break down like you would another citrus would break down. But that doesn't actually break down when you come out of the freezer. So the bead stays.
My taste of the week is it's not so much a taste, but it's a anticipation of the week.
You're going to Hawaii?
Towards the end of this week, there is supposed to be an announcement from the EPA, and if you've listened to this show long enough, that we have been fighting Bristol for Bristol Bay and against the Pebble Mine for
Sure.
a long time, 15 years now. And there is supposed to be a major announcement at the end of this week that I'm looking forward to.
But I thought they was already done.
No.
Oh, no?
Nothing's ever done.
Oh my God.
And there's trillions of dollars worth of gold and copper in the ground. Nothing's ever done. It won't be ever done in our whole lifetime. But for now, this announcement would suggest that we have bought some time.
Moratorium on touching it.
I'm not going to count my anti-mines
I'll knock on wood just for you.
before they hatch. But yeah, coming up, we're going to talk citry. Sorry, Sean Dottori. Coming up, we're going to talk candied citrus for our sweet and savory applications. Coming up, we're going to talk candied citrus for our winter time citrus applications. On Cairo Radio, it's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM.
Yeah. Candied citrus is a tongue twister.
I guess. Who knew? What a lame-o.
Too many vowels in the wrong
I
place.
should bring some finger lime next time.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Care package.
Really?
Yeah, and the finger lime kind of look like a finger that's black. And so it's
Terrible.
kind of hard to see them because they kind of hide in the shadows, and then there's all these thorns. But they had all that horrible rain.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not so horrible for where it didn't flood, but
They call that God's spirit. It's not horrible. It's for a place that doesn't have.
when there's landslide. Anyway, the rain was so rough, it knocked the fruit right, knocked them all off of the bush onto the ground where then they started to rot. So that-
Yeah.
so I didn't have a lot.
Mm.
Yeah. Good tangerine. The flavor, the flavor is so delicious. It's very thick skin, very seedy of a tangerine. So, once you get through the skin, you just eat the whole pulp and everything, but very, quite a few seeds, but the flavor, really good. It's very,
The tree's probably 60, 70 years old.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
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 You set?
Yep.
Welcome back. It's time to talk citrus and candying citrus and why it is that when we always try to tell you to eat local, that we're all cool with having citrus this time of year.
Well, just like we're cool having coffee.
Yeah, exactly. I'm Chef Tom Douglas.
And I'm Thierry Roturo, the chef in the hat.
Pamela, you have suggested that we explore candying. I'm struggling with the candy citrus thing combination today. What is your interest?
Well, I saw Claudia Fleming. We've talked about her a couple times. Used to be at Gramercy, I think.
Yeah.
Gramercy Tavern. She's got
greatest dessert.
a couple of great books. out.
Great books. And she's got an article trending now on candying kumquats.
Yeah.
Her recommendation comes from the ease with which you can preserve them, because of a lot of the other methods call for repeated boiling and rinsing to get rid of some of the bitterness of the skins. But she said with kumquats, not necessary.
No.
You can get them right into a simple syrup pretty quickly. And she had them sliced in beautiful wheels and just easy, pretty preserve. But then right after that, I saw this article for an Afghan dish that is a lamb and rice dish, and you cook some of the rice with a candied orange syrup.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do some of the preserved peel that goes over the top, and it just looks like one of the brightest citrus affected dishes that I've ever seen. And it gets topped with pistachio, so I just want it.
There must be warmer spots in Afghanistan than what I'm thinking that there are, because some, like I was just reading, like it's 45 below in parts of Afghanistan right now.
Yeah,
Not too many
there's-
orange trees.
Oh, there is mountains. That's
Yeah,
that's why
I-
it's
yeah.
that cold.
I just didn't realize. Maybe it's greenhouses. I don't know where it comes from. But anyway, I love that kind of where you marry the citrus, the candy citrus with dates or almonds, or you see
Yes.
that some Moroccan cooking too,
Sure,
don't
sure.
you?
And I used to do a lemon with rice vinegar and sugar or honey, depends on the mood. And I would cook them sliced lemon, and I would cook them very slowly, covered with parchment paper, and cook it very, very, very slowly for like 2-3 hours till they were tender. And I would use the syrup to put in the rice with ginger. And I tell you, that rice was scrumptious.
So go
That's
back
what I
to-
want.
Yeah, go
Because
back
you
to your
get-
lemons for a second. I'm not understanding your process.
So you slice lemon,
Okay.
you put them in a liquid brine of
Oh, so you are putting them in something wet.
yeah.
I thought you were
ri-
just baking them.
No, rice vinegar, a little water, and some honey or sugar.
Okay.
And then you cook that very, very slowly, but super slowly, no boiling.
As a simmer, yeah.
Very, very low boiling with parchment paper on top. I would cook that on top of the stove for a very long time. And then until it's totally caramelized and, sweet and tender, and the lemon is like tender to the tooth. And then I would use the leftover of the syrup and put that into a rice. And that was, with ginger, that was so delicious. You cook
I'm
a piece of
craving
fish
that.
and you put that on top of that. And
I'm surprised that when I think of French people as an aggregate, like as in a whole, I find like French people don't love my salmon rub when I talk to them locally because it's too sweet for them. I don't think of sweet and savory going in French cooking very often.
well, too sweet is definitely not as French, but sweet and sour, I think that's one thing that
Sweet and sour is.
I think French people picked that up a long time ago from the Asian, moving towards, the mist. When people start meeting and start going through culture crossing, I think then the Chinese sweet and sour idea really was appealing to the French. I mean, we have many recipes that finishes that are sweet, let's say caramel and vinegar. We have quite a few dishes like that, so you use the sweet and sour of that nature.
So where else in your cooking do you use candied fruits? And for me, I'm a very simple candied fruit person. I don't even do the step where they often call for like taking your orange slice and blanching it first, essentially, and then cooking it off with
Yeah,
the simple syrup. I just go right into the simple syrup because to me, I like the bitterness that
Right.
comes from the pith,
Me too.
and it's often just too sweet when it's not bitter at all.
Right. And also, I mean, you really dilute it a lot in flavor when you start boiling slices of orange or lemon. You lose a lot of that lemon and orange flavor. It's not just the bitterness. So if you don't like the bitterness flavor of the orange, just take your peel and with a knife, get rid of the white part of the pith on the skin, and you have nothing but the skin. So take that skin and then confit that.
Mhm.
Cook it slowly in a syrup of sugar. Then you'll have a beautiful flavor that will be cleaner. Kumquats, I think, is a beautiful fruit, as Pam was mentioning. I love kumquat, and kumquat do really well with spices as well.
Oh, that, yeah, I
crack-
hadn't thought
crack-
about that, but
Cracked peppercorn and kumquat together, in a syrup. It does really, really well. So now you have a very nice heat onto your kumquat. So if you do like a braised shoulder lamb, cook very slowly for like 5 hours until it totally melts down with all the carrots and the onions and the dates, and then you put all that kumquat on top of it at the last 15 minutes, then you're cooking it.
divine.
Divine.
Yeah.
We just got our lamb from, we get our neighbor's lamb every year and just got it. So I'm having these creeps over for dinner on Saturday night. I'm looking forward to that. And
Oh, I already know what we're gonna eat. I'm loving this.
I'm thinking about some lamb from our neighbor's.
You've got to make this lamb dish, the Afghan one.
Oh, I do have to.
Yeah.
Okay. So where else? I love candied citrus, but I love fruitcakes.
Yeah.
And I think I'm an outlier when it comes to fruitcakes.
No, I like fruitcake
You
too.
do you? Jackie makes a fruit bar that I really like because it's a nice cake, but it's also half the amount. Doesn't have the density that a lot of fruitcakes have. Pamela and I had delicious panettone this year for Christmas from the Sicilian Bona Futura, Futura, Bona Futura. And really good candied blood orange in the panettone. There's lots of ways to use it that
it's a
aren't
very- it's-
necessarily that dense fruitcake.
No, and I'm a big fan of the upside down orange or lemon cake. You take all your lemon slices and your orange slices, then you put your batter on top, then you bake that way.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like it comes
Yeah,
out
I've got a recipe for that.
upside
yeah.
down caramelized. Oh, it's so delicious, and it's great for it's coffee cake or it's dessert. So
You can do it in several different ways. You don't even need the cake part. If you just have some pie dough. Honestly, I'll line a saute pan with slices of blood orange and sprinkle sugar over top. Cook them just until the sugar melts.
Right.
Put your pot brisée right on top of that. Bake it in the oven.
sure.
Then when you turn it out, you've got these candied orange
Voila,
slices.
tartin.
Yeah, exactly. An orange tart tatin.
Exactly. No, I mean it's a little whipped cream on top of that, and you're safe.
Or a lot.
Oh, a lot, yeah.
Or a lot of
Depends
it.
on how much.
A few shows ago, Terry mentioned the method of getting Brussels sprout leaves off, and apparently one of our listeners would like to know more about that, Mr. Rotero.
Sure.
And Brussels sprouts, there's so many ways to cook them.
By the way, that's if you have enough time on your hand.
And here's what I'll say about this. If you hate Brussels sprouts, listen in because we're going to give you some ways that they're not just boiled mini cabbages that kind of stink.
I haven't boiled a
We
Brussels
make
sprout in quite
beautiful
some time.
Brussels sprout dishes now. On Cairo Radio, it's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM.
I boiled Brussels sprouts last night with
You did have what funny time.
Well, you blanch them, the leaves, I can care less about it. It's all part of it. You mean like the leaves of the outer leaves of the Brussels sprout?
No. I what I was talking about last week.
Oh, save it for radio,
Yeah.
chef.
So anyways, I just blanch them, and then olive oil.
You don't need to blanch them.
Welcome back to the Hot Stove Society Show. We're having a good time. David is out there in the audience. He's all dressed in red, ready for the Kansas City Seahawks? Kansas City Jayhawks?
Cut it out.
Kansas City what? Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs to take and try and win their playoff game this Sunday, I believe, against the Cincinnati Bengals. Is that true?
Yep.
That's the
It's going to be a
matchup.
lot of red on the field.
Well, you look good, David. You look very good. You look bright and cheery, and go Chiefs.
That's right.
Right. I don't have a dog in this game. Do you?
Well, our emphasis is the 49ers, and they're doing really well, and they're playing really well. So
You're gonna go with them?
I'm gonna side view the 49ers. They're
Well, I
playing
like
really
it because
well.
they're in our division, so
I know.
I'll
but
vote for them.
Normally, we like to
I
keep
now
them
have
there.
I now have a fighter in this match.
Right.
A few weeks ago, Terry, you mentioned Brussels sprout leaves that I don't really think that they took it the way that you thought about it. You mentioned Brussels sprout leaves, like pulling them off.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the ones that you might throw away off the outside that are
Oh,
bruised.
no.
But you're just talking, once you get to your clean head,
Right.
you start to pull them off. How do you achieve that? Somebody wants to know.
So you cut the stem, from the bottom. You cut the stem so it can loosen up the leaves, and then you take the leaves one by one, like you would on the head of lettuce.
What do you mean? Oh, you don't core it.
No,
or you do core it.
You take the core out from
You
the
do.
bottom, and then you cut all those. That's the only way the leaves are going to come out.
Yeah.
So the leaves are coming out separated, and then you toss them in a bowl with a little bit of olive oil, salt, pepper.
Uh-huh.
And then you throw them in a pan that's really hot.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that on the stove, or you can do it in the oven, 450 degrees. You throw them on a sheet pan, and then it takes only a few minutes because it's not that long. The leaves are not very thick.
Right.
So within 5 minutes, you've got beautiful rendered roasted leaves.
So you have to core it like an apple, because
Or
I
like a
tried
head of
it,
cabbage.
and I think maybe my Brussels sprouts were too small. Like I wasted so much of
Well,
the
when I get-
vegetable trying to just get the leaves
right.
separated.
So the first thing to do is to take your palm of your hand, press gently on the Brussels sprout so it can loosen it up. Then you cut the stem,
Pro
and the
tip.
leaves comes up. The center core stays together. Just take a knife and cut it. I cut it in small, in small thickness. So then it's the same as the leaf. So the center does, the core of the Brussels sprout head does stay tight.
Yeah, I was
So
going
you
to
have-
say, it's not like a head of iceberg or something where you can
Right.
bang it on the
right.
counter and the core will pop loose.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. It's not that loose. It's tighter than that. So, but yes, in the center, you just take it and cut it in small pieces.
So I think what he's saying is essentially you cut it the opposite direction. You continue to cut leaves like you might an artichoke. You continue to cut kind of leaves off the outside.
Right.
Just cut around. Trying to core a Brussels sprout, especially a small one, would be a
Yeah,
difficult
no, you
task.
I don't do that. No.
Well, that's what you said. That's why I'm curious.
Well, coring, like you take the head of the Brussels sprout, on the bottom is the core, right?
Yes.
So you cut that off flat.
Right. Oh, okay.
Now you loosen up the leaves.
Okay. I
Right?
thought you were taking it and kind of wedging that core out of each Brussels sprout. That's, I think, what you thought too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's going way too deep into this.
All right. So here's an easier version of that.
Sure.
You don't get the same beautiful leaf, but if you just use a mandolin, one of those sharp little Japanese or Chinese style mandolins, you just simply grate the Brussels sprout core and all.
Sure.
Because it's slicing thin enough that the core cooks up just as
Watch
fast.
your fingers.
Yeah, watch your
Horizontally
fingers.
or vertically?
It doesn't matter. You can take the head of it and go against it, but no, vertically. I would say just put the bulbous head on the top and then just take it all the way down to as far
I think
as
it would just
you don't
shred.
add fingers. It does shred.
It does
just a
shred. It's
that's what
shredded
it
Brussels
is.
sprout.
You just get
And
shredded.
it cooks in a minute.
Yeah.
Right? You're just doing just like you would spinach, just a hot, quick
Yeah.
saute.
And this is when you get your pan really hot. You have an advantage to do that because it will give it a nice little char.
So, Chef, here's a problem I have with Brussels sprouts is I love them. And you go to restaurants, they're all over the place, right? Because we all have Brussels sprouts and Brussels sprouts to choose from for a winter vegetable.
That's right.
So often they are just soaked in some sort of meat fat, bacon fat. So often they are deep fried. They're taking like the goodness out of the vegetable. So how would you take a Brussels sprout and kind of achieve that same glory, that caramelization, that deliciousness, salty? It's almost like a French fry, right?
Right,
The way they're serving them without all the sugary sauce on top.
Well, first of all, don't put sugar. Second of all, reduce the fat amount you're putting in it. And then you
No,
have
but
a
how
very,
do you get
very,
the crispy crunchy?
well, you need to have a very hot pan and cast iron pan, or, we talked about different pan on last show. You can just make sure your pan is really hot. That's the only way you're going to achieve a fast searing, even with a little char on your green leaves. And if you don't put too much fat, it will be just a simple process that will get through. The leaves are going to melt, and then you'll have that fat to be contending with it. But if you put a lot of fat, what you're doing is you're frying. You're not really doing that charring. You're more like frying.
Deep frying, yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of that fat's going to stay on it, which is not very appealing to me. Eating a green vegetable that's full of fat, to me, that's totally
Yeah.
not working.
So my thought would be to take them, quarter them,
Right.
pop them in, toss them with a little bit of olive oil, put them in a 500-degree oven and
Right.
give them the hardest roast that you can get
Sure.
until they caramelize.
Yeah.
And then if you want the sweetness you get from that deep fried and then having it dressed, I would use something like Saba, S-A-B-A,
Yeah.
which is sweet,
Yeah.
plenty sweet, but it's also got a little acidity to it. And it's the residue of vinegar, grape must kind of vats. And it is delicious and a simple, healthy way to possibly get.
Yeah. It's kind of like a sweet reduced
Instead of
balsamic
taking those
vinegar.
Brussels sprouts and like making them almost like candied bacon.
Yeah, deep frying Brussels sprout is not. I haven't had a good one yet. That was like
It's very popular.
not feeling like it was deep fried.
Right.
You know, it's like no, I'm not interested in that.
Mm.
If I'm gonna eat deep fried, I'm definitely going for French fries.
So the other thing I would say if you want to get it nice crispy is that a quick steam, we quarter them, a quick steam before you roast them.
Right.
To me, it's like broccoli rabe doesn't roast really well without being blanched
Yeah.
a little bit first. So instead of blanching and pouring off all the goodness in the blanching water, do a quick steam
Right.
and then do that roasting.
Yeah, because a lot of people do that. Like Eric was saying, my brother-in-law, who's here today, said he cooked Brussels sprout last night, but he blanched them first. And I haven't done that method in a very, very long time. I part away from that and just went straight roasting. Again, it's practice. You know, roasting is not very hard to do. The oven is the one that does most of the work. So, you know, you just have to remember halfway through to toss them around so they're not burning or not getting roasting on one side and not the other. So just toss them around. Make sure you make yourself a very hot oven and make sure you have the adequate deep pan to put them in so you can toss them around. But other than that, it's a very simple matter of, you know, just put them in a very hot oven for a few minutes, get them roasted, then take them out and then finish then. You know, make a vinaigrette on the side or something very simple that can go and really season your vegetable.
All right. So other vegetables. Pamela has an interest in vegetable butchery. And I don't think people think about it very much, right? They are used to how their mom chopped the vegetables and how they always chops the vegetables. To me, it goes a long ways to making them visually more appealing.
Right?
It is by just adding a bias to most of your vegetable cuts.
True.
So, for
Agree-
example, on a
agree with
carrot,
that.
right? I cut a carrot lengthwise, either in half or in quarters, lengthwise, and then I cut at a bias when I cut the chunks so that I have these kind of diamond-shaped carrots rather than just a round slice straight across the carrot.
Sure. No, absolutely. It's a more beautiful presentation for sure. The cooking part is very similar.
Yeah, it doesn't
You know,
hardly
the
change.
only-
Yeah.
The only thing is when you cut in bias, you have an edge that's thinner at the end on both ends. So you're going to have a little charring, which most people are looking forward to that. Other than that, it's a beautiful presentation and it changes, it varies, you know, and they have those knives and you can buy those, I don't know what you call them. It's like almost like a peeler knife. You can buy in any, like a Wajimaya or whatever. And then you can go through your vegetables and your carrots and everything, and it will cut like long string or whatever. It's like a peeler that makes the cut.
That reminds me of the old French cut green beans.
Yeah.
Remember the little slicer
Those are
for
my
the green
favorite.
beans?
I thought it was so fancy when
Did
we
you?
were
Yeah.
eating those. They called them Frenched.
Yeah, they were French.
Frenched down
Yeah.
the.
It's the goofiest thing.
I know.
Because they're just thin little.
They taste better. They take up the butter better.
Well, that's what tastes.
They just take more butter. That's what it is.
They take more butter in the casting.
Right.
Yeah.
Any
No.
other vegetables? We only have a minute. Any other vegetables that you can think of that really benefit from a different way of slicing them?
Well, I think any hard vegetable, like you mentioned carrot, but like celery, cucumbers, like when you're making a salad, I think there's a big difference between julienne cucumber and diced cucumber or sliced cucumber. You know, there's a difference in the marination.
Or the hot thing right now is smashed cucumber, right?
What?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's very Chinese, and you just take it and you smash it like with a meat hammer, or some way or another, and then let it marinate in the dressing, and it soaks up the dressing. So
Annie does a beautiful smashed cucumber salad.
it's very hip
Wow.
right now.
It's
Yeah.
I
very
don't know
hip.
that. Oh, I need to. I lost
Yeah.
on that trend.
Yeah.
But of course, if Annie does it, you know it's hip.
Of course.
Yeah. Annie being the chef here at the Hot Stove
We
Society.
don't have time to find out why you hate cubes so
Yeah, no.
much, but I'm going to revisit this at a future show. I need to go into your.
I know.
It's the Pepperidge Farm syndrome. It's not a big deal. It's like it looks like it came out of a bag. Is what I'm
Okay,
saying.
that's what Okay, we
Only-
covered it. Never
nothing-
I
mind.
thought it was you were lousy with your knife skill.
Let's make some burnt ends when we come back on Cairo Radio. It's the Hot Stove Society show.
Oh boy.
Annie, thank you so much. That looks delish.
Oh yeah. She's a master. So this is a new dish this week for breakfast. Tom had it yesterday and had some suggestions. So.
Well, that's not what I heard.
Harry thought it was perfect.
No, I didn't say,
I heard.
I said what I didn't say perfect. I
Yeah.
said it was really good.
Delicious.
It was just a few.
This is really much better.
Truly, it's
Yeah.
different.
I think the flavor is really good, but I
Think
still
it's
like
too thick?
I still like the cream reduction instead of bechamel.
Not me.
You don't?
Is it bechamel or is it cream? Which is it?
It's bechamel.
Oh.
Yeah. Bechamel with cheese is
But the
Mornay.
eggs are overcooked again today. Okay.
Brisket. Yeah.
No, it's
It's-
a sandwich.
there was no ham yesterday. No, I said that's how we traditionally make it.
Nice job, Annie.
Yeah, very nice.
I agree that yolk definitely needs less. We're still playing around with the timing a little bit. I did less than yesterday, but it still is hard, so definitely. But yesterday we did with cream only, this day we did with Mornay.
I know we were here.
I have the report too.
I was just trying to think while you were saying that in my head. Maybe Terry knows this because he loves baked eggs more than I do. But the best way to try and keep that yolk soft and running, and to me, it's almost got to be you bake the eggs, the spinach, and the ham. You kind of warm it up and then just dress it. You wouldn't get this nice little bit of caramelization that you have, but it would be the runny yolk. If you dressed it with your Mornay and then hit your Mornay with a torch to brown it
Oh boy.
rather than trying to bake it. Terry says no.
You don't need to do any of that. It's a simple dish. It's not complicated.
Yeah.
You just practice. Yeah. And by the way, you
Where's
don't
the
need,
ham?
you know what I like the most of all this?
The toast.
The toast is buttered to perfection. Like it's almost dripping butter, but not quite. I'm like, you put it between your teeth and you're like, oh, butter. Pretty good, Annie.
Did you hear the show yesterday where my taste of the week was my toast was actually toasted down at Lola?
Is it just one waiter that knows your preference, or do you think
No.
they do it for
I
everybody?
sent it back and had it retoasted.
Oh, I thought you said they did it twice.
That's what I
Oh,
think
yeah.
you
I did. I
say it
didn't
that
want to go
way.
into it on the air, but
Happens every time. They
So I
should have
did-
that on their manual.
And Tom comes
but to me
in,
this is the
No, double
lightest.
toast for everybody.
double
This is the
toasted.
lightest it should be.
Yeah.
I like it even darker, but this is the lightest. This is perfect.
You've been hanging
for the
out with your
regular
wife
customer.
so long.
No, I like my pizza the same way. I like the dark boils on the outside of my
You
pizza.
know, it started a whole pizza chain.
I'm with you, Tom. There is no black, there is no bread. Toasted. Toasted white to me is like you forget to turn on the oven. This is really good. I like the flavor. I like the Mornay. It's a really delicious Mornay.
High praise from the Frenchman.
You get the right balance in the nutmeg. It's really delicious.
I love spinach.
Me too. Is it spinach day? I think it was arugula yesterday.
Well, there's arugula on the side.
Yeah, there's arugula on the side, but spinach.
Oh, spinach.
You're not
is-
eating?
I don't like to eat.
She's not a breakfast girl.
No, while we're
Oh,
in process.
So speaking of spinach, what's the easiest way to clean it?
there is no easy way. But you have to clean them.
Buy pre-cleaned.
And if you buy pre-clean, I would still wash them. Because,
Right, the sand, the grit.
yeah.
Have you noticed that the produce is getting a little bit dirtier, muddier? At PCC, like you buy a bunch of carrots, and it's got so much mud in it. Spinach too, like you really have to do a
Yeah.
huge bath.
Yeah, my wife, when she gets that pre-cleaned stuff, I said, you still have to clean it.
Well, yeah.
You still have to run it and rinse it through the salad spinner at least one time because bacteria.
Especially spinach and green leaf like that. There's only a couple of farms in the whole United States. So think of what they do.
Triple wash is the same water they triple wash it with.
Yeah.
Rinse it again.
It's very simple. Lots
How do
of
you guys
water.
ever expect to build up any immunity?
But you know what? I've got my immunity. Tom, I've got my immunities. I was raised with it. It's good. I'm good.
Did your mom triple wash it off the farm? No.
Yeah,
my mom has probably not washed spinach in quite some time. I don't think she eats many spinach.
Oh, they,
I know. And the disease we had, we kept to ourselves.
that last pandemic in 1980 was just a mirage.
I know. It came from the Italians. Ask your butcher.
the secret.
Well, if you're buying pre-processed or processed meat, like a ham at the grocery or something, it has to have on the label what it's injected with. But if you go to, a lot of it, like Costco, they have racks of pork that are in cryovac, right? That are all Frenched and ready to go. And it has to say if it's what percentage water it is, just like your turkey does or your chicken does, or so. That's the key, is to read the label. In my mind, I'm not saying it's perfect solution, but what? Well, if there was nothing injected,
All right.
oh, we are running a little late today.
No, just 1 minute.
Welcome back to the Hot Stove Society show. That was Chef Terry being the audience motivator. You do that so well, Chef.
Well, when you have 500 people watching you, you
Yeah.
gotta motivate them.
Seems to
When
me
you
people
have 5, you should do 2.
will follow anyone in a chapeau.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Follow
And
the-
a scarf. You
Follow
look-
the leader. He's
you look
on
dashing.
He's wearing a hat.
Yeah. Burnt ends. We've opened Etta's Big Mountain Barbecue down in the Pike Place Market area, where my
Yes.
old Etta's was and is. The restaurant itself was named after my daughter Loretta. That was her nickname.
Sure.
So some 27 or 8 years ago, and been playing around with it, enjoying it. We put some smokers on the dock. We've owned them. We had them up at Brave Horse before this, so we
Right.
just have them on the dock out at Ballard. I love that smell when I come to work at the dock in the morning. Just I can see the chimneys going, and it's just such a fun, beautiful thing. I was one of the original investors in Jack's Barbecue, so I got
Right.
a bug there. Years ago, I was asked to be a judge at the Jack Daniel's World Barbecue Invitational.
I remember that. Yeah.
Which is kind of what got our salmon rub started, our line of salmon rubs. So there's been one of the things that when we were designing Etta's, the current version, is that we wanted the Northwest take on it, the Northwest flair, because Jack's does a beautiful job with Texas style
Oh, yeah.
barbecue, right? And there's Soul Barbecue in town. There's Chinatown Barbecue, which is when I first moved to Seattle in '77 you had Willie's House of Soul, I believe, and Chinatown barbecue windows. And
Right.
those were the two styles of barbecue in town. So at Etta's, we tried to kind of add a Northwest flair, and we're still kind of defining that even internally.
Doesn't mean you're using lots of seafood.
It means we're adding more seafood as we go. We had shrimp on the menu and of course salmon, but we're putting on barbecued oysters, and we're just kind of
Clams and mussels.
refining the menu as we go. But there are certain basic things that people want when they see the term barbecue. We're struggling a little bit with people coming in with a preconceived notion of exactly what should be on the menu.
Yes,
And
I
that's,
imagine that
yeah.
is happening.
And no, and this is an age-long thing for me. I always try to put a twist on things, and yet people just they want what they want when it comes to barbecue.
It's very hard to be an innovator when you go into an institution.
Yeah.
And it's very, very hard because you're faced with the reality of why is it an institution? Why is barbecue called, any Americans knows what barbecue means to them.
Right.
Like you said, it's a preconceived idea. I mean, if you tell me barbecue, I'm thinking smoky, and I'm thinking meat. I'm not thinking fish, I'm thinking meat. And I'm thinking something that's going to be tender to the teeth, when I'm eating it. So either the tip, tri-tip, whatever piece of meat that's going to be, or something on the bone.
Yeah.
That's going to be falling off the bone with lather most of the time with sauce, which, by the way, that barbecue sauce, it definitely has a spectrum of great to not so great. I think in many places,
Even the stuff you buy on the grocery shelf.
yeah, or
Yeah.
then you find in some barbecue places they use to what I think is cheap barbecue sauce, as in it's not very well conceived. It's sugar and you can taste the
Yeah.
sugar and the vinegar, whatever. It's very simply done.
Oh.
But when I discovered barbecue for me as a foreigner, the first time I discovered it was a trip through Casey, Kansas City, and it was really incredible to go through 5 different barbecue places, which were real barbecue places, and to see the
See,
differences.
right there is where you get off the track, though, right?
For that region, I mean.
For real, I understand, but that's your impression
Right.
of what real Kansas City barbecue is, right?
Well, that's what they were claiming. I mean,
I
I'm not the one who
understand.
said
You don't
that.
know, right? And I didn't know when I first went there
Yeah.
either what real Kansas City is. Turns out real Kansas City barbecue, at least from the dozen places that I tried, are very different than the dozen places of Texas
Oh,
barbecue
definitely.
that I
different.
tried in Lockhart in that area, the barbecue belt of Texas.
Right.
Very different than Dreamland in Alabama, where you've been, and very different than the Pig's Pit in North Carolina, right?
Right,
So it's just a barbecue. There is preconceived notion,
It's
but there's
regional.
a natural regionality to it. So anyway, getting back to my story, I was trying to create a little bit more of a Northwest regional flair on it, and I've been a little bit successful, a little bit not. But the reason I brought that up was that this segment that Pam put in here was about burnt ends,
Right.
and it's in barbecue, I have never seen burnt ends referred to as brisket. To me, the burnt ends are always the rib tips off of a rack of ribs.
Correct.
And but burnt ends, they can be whatever you want them to be, right? They could be the little crispy bits at the end of a brisket that's been on the smoke for 12 hours.
Yeah.
But
I guess that's true. It could be anything. Anything
but
that's a burnt end.
traditionally they're off the pork rack, the full spare rib rack.
Right.
So and we don't have burnt ends in that way.
Right.
Right. And we do have cooked brisket, but we shave it and then put it on a smoked brisket sandwich,
Right.
which is not something you would find anywhere else. And we do it partially over applewood, partially over hickory, because applewood is too sappy for the long smoke.
Right.
But nobody in Texas is using applewood
Right.
on their brisket, right? It's all post oak. So it's interesting how you try to be something a little bit different, and yet people want to put you in a box as soon as you use a term. And it happened with pizza too. When I first started Serious Pie,
Yeah.
I get all these pizzas sent back to the kitchen because they're burnt. And I look at the pizzas and they haven't even tasted them.
Yeah.
Visually to the customer, they were burnt. To me, they were beautifully black boiled caramelizations,
Right.
right? But we had to change our style, or else we were just making, we were getting these terrible reviews and blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, we take some of that char off visually, and we're considered one of the best pizzas in America. So it's just a funny thing. So we're dealing with some of that down at Etta's Big Mountain Barbecue as we establish our style. And but let's go back to burnt ends.
So what do you
Yeah, I
do?
wanna
What do
know
you do with
how
the
you
burnt
get it.
end?
Well, we don't burn any ends. We smoke, and
Right.
what ends up being what I think Pam is referring to are the crispy bits, because a brisket is in one end of the brisket, it's 6 inches deep.
Yes.
And the other end of the brisket, it's 1.5 inches deep, right?
Correct.
And so, unless you're cooking them separately, you end up with darker bits on the end of on some of them. And of course, it's a 12-hour smoke, so you end up with this crispy edge or this dark edge on the outside.
Right.
But generally, from a burnt end perspective, the entire outside is your burnt end.
Right.
Right. Because it's all got the same amount of cooking time on it.
Hmm.
And I love that outside. I also love it. Down at Jack's, you can get the fatty nose, which is that kind of mound on top of the brisket.
Yeah.
But I love that marbleized fatty nose. And God,
I have never heard that
it makes
term.
it's called the nose of the brisket, but it makes you feel like you're going to die
Yeah.
because you're so
Well, one
marbled.
slice is good enough. It's like a egg.
Yeah,
Wagyu.
exactly.
It's like Wagyu A6. You don't need a pound of it. You just have one slice and done.
So good.
Yeah, it's really good.
And
It's,
if you get
it's what it's
pastrami,
supposed.
sometimes pastrami's fatty like that.
Right.
It's the same brisket, right? So
I think it's what it's supposed to be originally. I'm sure originally they were not taking the fat off the cap. Because why would you? It's like,
yeah,
You
even in
couldn't
Texas,
afford
they
it.
trim the outside fat, but that fat in between the nose and the flat of a
Right.
brisket, they never trim that out.
Right.
And that's all there and cooks down. And when you slice it, you can see the juice just running out of the brisket from that fat line that's right through the middle of the brisket.
we just had breakfast. I'm still hungry.
But barbecue is like, it's like burgers or pizza or something.
Yeah.
It's very communal and very competitive. When people come in, they want to know, are you the best barbecue in the city? Or are you, the best brisket? Or what? It's been
the
interesting.
sauce must be a challenge too.
The sauce a
Just-
little bit less. Like sauce in Kansas City is very important. Sauce
Right.
in Texas is jar of Tabasco.
Right.
So it's very different, and that's just the way it is. But
Can't
anyway,
wait.
it's been super fun.
Can't wait to visit Big
Yeah.
Mountain.
Etta's Big Mountain Barbecue,
Etta's Big Mountain Barbecue up on the north end of the Pike Place Market.
right next to Seatown.
Right next
that
to
corner
Seatown.
now is back alive. And yesterday I was down there, and we're putting in a to-go oyster window.
Oh,
In
fun.
the
Oh,
summertime, we
wow.
have these people that just want a cup of chowder, or they just want a half dozen oysters to take over
Yeah.
to the park, and they have to end up in the queue for the regular restaurant. So
How
now
cool
we're
is
putting in
that?
a little window. I don't know. We're gonna find out how cool that is.
I like
What
the
I
way-
do know is when the window's open now, it's very cold. It's very cool inside.
Yeah, this time of year, I would think.
All right, cooking in a Donabe pot. We come back here in the hot stove kitchen on Cairo Radio 97.3 FM.
You can do it either way. We were going to have Annie next, but
Oh, did I miss it?
you can
No, I'll just go back.
flip
And,
it. Doesn't
I
matter.
just missed. No, I just missed the line. Annie, are you ready? All right. Sean Dottori, we'll have to change this if you would switch this out, please. Up next, Hot Stove Society Director Annie Elmore is going to talk about homemade pho. Because I don't know about you, Chef, but I have never made it.
I've never made pho either.
Yeah. All right. We're going to learn how on Cairo Radio. It's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM. We are virgin putty in your fingers, so don't mess us up. We've
What?
never made this soup, so
Oh.
don't lead us astray. We can't challenge you.
So this class,
Oh, we will.
airs on the 11th, but her class is the 18th. So should we talk about the class?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
11th. It'll be sold out by then.
It's already sold out. We added 6 more seats.
Good. And then we could add another whole class. So
Yeah.
let's drive some.
Exactly. You call
Got
pho
nothing else to
pho.
do you?
The-
What else do you got to do?
No, the first class is called pho. The next one is called pho pho.
I will call you up for the name change for each
Pho
class.
pho.
FI PHO FUM.
So I think you could say keep,
You have 4
keep an
classes.
eye out for her class postings.
Yeah, it took a little, few weeks for it to catch up, and it finally just sold out so fast in like a week, and then we have to add 6 more seats to the class. So now it's like
Wow.
30
popular girl.
people.
I think we're at 35 tonight. Is that right?
33.
33?
Yeah.
Repeat.
Yeah.
What's the theme tonight?
Tonight is a benefit for the Coastal Cutthroat Coalition. And it's a bunch of fishermen.
Cutthroat?
Cutthroat trout.
Oh,
Cutthroat.
I heard cutthroat. I was like, well, that's a weird.
Coastal Cutthroat Coalition, I want to say. It's a fundraiser.
And what's the
With
theme?
Keith Robbins.
Do
You
they
know
have a
Keith,
theme?
right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Captain
Captain Keith. Yeah.
Captain Moosh.
Yeah.
Fly
Fly
moosh.
moosh.
Fly
Yeah.
Moosh.
Fly moosh.
Is he still a captain, real captain?
Yeah.
Once a captain, always
We are
a
what we
captain.
say we are.
Oh, that's good.
So
to
like
know.
you saying,
He
you
also
calling
claims that
yourself
he
a
actually,
chef?
he actually claims that he actually catches fish when he's out guiding too. Which I've never,
Tom-
I've never seen one
Tom's
caught.
But
been
you see a
giving him-
diver on in the water, right?
Tom's been giving him hell for 30 years about how he can catch fish.
Good morning.
He says I'm not patient enough.
Good morning.
It's true.
I say the fish just don't care for him. Something like take that weak shit home. You know. Ready?
Yeah.
Ready,
Yep.
set, Annie?
I'm ready.
Okay. We are back for hour number 2 of the Hot Stove Society show on Cairo, coming to you from downtown Seattle, 4th of Virginia. The Hotel Andra is our home, and we are upstairs on the mezz in the back. Come visit us. Come check out our cookbook lending library, all the things that we do here, our
It's a
classes.
feel
Speaking of
good.
classes, Chef Annie is here,
Yes.
and she is the director here at the Hot Stove. And she's going to teach us how to make pho. You and I both said in the last segment that we have never made pho before. And I feel like as a virgin putty right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to soak it all in. I'm going to listen, and then I'm going to recreate. And if it doesn't come out, I'm going to raise some hell.
Well, if it doesn't come out, you too can take a class at the Hot Stove Society
Yes, I
from Chef
recommend
Annie.
it.
There you go. What a good idea.
By the way, that's a very popular class. She's overbooked already. So
Well, that means you'll have to add a second. When is your class?
Sometime in February. February
The
11th?
18th?
Is it? Oh, it's
18th.
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 Yeah. So check out thehotstove.com and you can sign up for Annie's Pho class. Anyway, let's just tell them how to make it for free. They don't have to come to class.
No.
Oh,
We can't
no,
do
no.
that.
Come on. Step up to the mic here, Missy. Teach Terry and I how to make pho.
Well, for pho, it's kind of like chicken noodle soup for every grandma's, right?
Mhm.
Like everyone have their own spices and stuff like that. So the 3 traditional spices that you want to add into your pho broth is cinnamon, star anise, and cloves. Those are the only 3 that you need, and that's the base. And then beyond that is what your mom, your grandma, whoever, like built onto that recipe. I use my mom, and then additional to what I've learned in the Western kitchen of using a lot more warm spices. So I love fennel, and I feel like fennel and star anise go really well together. Coriander seeds, of course. I just put 1 small thing of allspice in there too. In my, I think allspice and beef goes really well together, but you don't want it too much to overpower. But just a little bit of that in there, it
Like 1 berry, kind of a
yeah,
little bit?
1 berry. Yeah,
Okay.
I would say 1 berry to 1 gallon of water.
Okay.
Some people even add a whole nutmeg in there, but I think that get a little bit too strong. But you can. And of course,
I've never used a whole nutmeg in anything.
No.
And I've
Yeah.
used nut.
I
I
have
love
the
nutmeg.
same one in my
Yeah.
cupboard for 10
I love
years.
nutmeg, but
Yeah,
I
but
like
I-
to grate it.
Okay, so we're in like a 7-quart pot on the stove.
yeah.
And you said chicken. Are you making chicken pho or
We-
isn't traditional beef?
Well, I'm making beef, but I also give people a chicken
chicken
for
option, yeah.
for an option. But if you were gonna do chicken, I usually love to use either whole or drumsticks,
Mhm.
because the drumsticks has a lot of gelatinous in
Yeah,
it, so it
collagen,
helps. Yeah, so it makes the broth a lot richer.
Yeah.
And also
Chicken
a
feet
lot
do that
cheaper
too,
too.
right?
Oh yeah, chicken feet
Chicken
is great
feet work
too.
easily.
But it's also cheap as well. And you got a lot of meat in there. You don't have to pick so much, and you can cook a little bit longer rather than chicken breast, because you don't really
Yeah.
cook it long enough to extract out all the flavor from the chicken.
And plus, chicken breast doesn't give you as much flavor either.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to keep the process. So we're on the stove. We're in a 7-quart pot. We've got a chicken or beef bones in there filled
Mhm.
with water,
Mhm.
all the spices you mentioned.
Mhm.
Then what?
So also for the bones, I'm very particular in what bones I use in my pho broth. I like to use beef ribs. So it's the ribs from the rib eye as opposed to knuckle bones. It doesn't have a lot of fat and flavor in there, I don't think. Um, but I like that fat on my pho broth.
Mhm.
That's where the money is. Because I remember growing up, going to a restaurant and eat. My family would always ask for additional bowl of beef fat in the broth to pour it onto that
It's
pho.
impossible. You are your size.
I know.
So like we have to ask for that, and then yeah, and so that's how, like, for me, that if there's no fat in my pho broth, I will not eat it. Like my lips
Oh.
have to feel like I just put on a whole chapstick on my
Yeah.
lips.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's like
funny
reminds
'cause-
me of that Princess Bride. Inconceivable.
It kind of reminds me of the first time I had a ramen soup in Kumamoto in Japan.
Hmm.
They were amazed I wanted to eat that. I was like, that's the first thing I wanted to eat. And it had that layer of like
Hmm.
emulsified
Hmm.
not foie, fat on top. That was so delicious.
Yep.
And I'm not I'm not as much crazy on just fat like that, in terms of eating it, but that was absolutely magnificent.
All right. So we've cooked our broth for what, 8 hours?
That already
The beef?
depends. Like if you were to use knuckle bones, yes, you want to cook a lot longer because
Uh-huh.
they are a lot bigger and it takes a lot longer too. But for beef ribs, you only have to do for 2-3 hours.
Okay. Now what?
And then you don't want to cook. So for the beef ribs, it costs a little bit more and it has more meat on it, right? You want to take it out before it really fall apart. And then you can use that meat and you scrape it off from the bones and you use that meat for your pho.
Lovely.
And then I usually make the broth with the onions, whole onions. Make sure you keep the cap on top so that way the layers of the onions don't fall in there. Ginger
So
for 2-3 hours.
Hold on, can you re-explain that? The cap of the onion. What do you mean by
Yeah, like where at the top, the
that? So
core.
you cut your
The
onion
root,
in
yeah.
half,
The root.
No, the root. You want to keep it whole.
whole onion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you cook that for 2-3 hours. If you were to use, rib bones, then the last hour you want to put in the sachet of the spices because you don't want to cook it from the beginning. You
Right.
get too strong, right?
Right.
So the last 45 minutes to an hour, that's when you add in the sachet of your spices. Then you can take it out after everything's done, and then there you go. You got your pho.
So now you got a hot bowl.
Mm-hmm.
You put your blanched rice noodles in the bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And then what else do you like to put into the bowl? Because that, to me, I love. People don't understand composed soups in that way, where you're putting in raw ingredients and letting the broth cook that.
Yeah. So at home, I put my bean sprouts down first, then my blanched noodles, which only 30 seconds. Then really the broth have to be boiling hot.
Mm-hmm.
Pour it on green onion, cilantro, meat, and then on the side, like not cilantro, but
Thai basil.
Thai basil, yeah, and all the sauces, the hoisin, the sriracha.
So you do like to doctor it up a little bit with some of that?
Yeah, definitely you have to.
And do you use the
But-
lime and the jalapeno too?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
But I like to sip my broth first before I add in everything else because the broth is what the money is, right?
Right.
Everything else is just additional flavor. So if the broth doesn't taste good, then I'm gonna add a lot more hoisin and sriracha to kind of make that taste go away.
Give it some character.
That would. So you're going to teach people how to make fun, then how to doctor it up when they mess it up. I love that. All right, thank you, Annie, for
Thank you
teaching
so
us
much.
how to make
Yeah.
fun. Chef, are we going to do this?
Absolutely.
All right, I can't wait. When we come back, we're going to cook in a Donabe pot.
Thank
My daughter
you.
gave me one, and
Fabulous.
it's still sitting on my counter, and I have to do it.
You gotta
Have
stop
to
putting
use it.
pennies in it.
I've used it once. On Cairo Radio, it's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM.
Oh, beautiful.
Well, I didn't know Donabe was so hot until I saw it on Goop.
It is.
Must
So-
be hot.
It's gone
Yeah.
mainstream when Gwyneth is.
Wow.
And she's having hers with lentils and caramelized onions.
That's what I'm saying. We've used it once, I think. Yeah.
And
But ours is big. Ours is like,
well,
you have to have 4 people for dinner.
I think that Terry and I were talking
morning.
about it. The tradition usually involves it being a bowl that comes out to the center of the table
Yes.
for the family.
Right. It's a
So that's why
presentation bowl.
these
Yeah.
are-
It's a one pot meal, basically.
Yeah.
It kind of gets like steamed, right? Like you have to, you know what
Well, these are glazed, so I'm not sure. There's nothing to season here, so I'm not sure if that's.
Well, like
This
for
is,
example,
look
we
at this great video of Eric doing his mushrooms.
Well, we've done this before, where the pot just breaks on the stove. Do you remember that? So
Really?
You do have to be careful on the
yeah.
temperature that
Yeah.
you.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that's their life. Especially if you.
that's nice when you're doing a demonstration and things like that happen.
It was during one of our intensive weekends.
Was it?
Remember that? It was like right here. And it was full of broth, and the whole thing went.
Oh wow. Mm. When do you put the snap peas in? That would be for me.
Hey, you YouTubers out there, are you going to make some pho? What are you doing out there? I was ready. I love
I know.
pho, and I think Annie is so right.
And
that
I don't need the
the money
oyster.
shot is the raw.
Yeah, I don't need the oyster at the end, honey.
No, I don't put the sauces in.
That stuff is
If you don't have a good broth, it does help.
Yeah.
well, no, obviously.
What you
but
see in Chinatown a lot, or in Vietnamese town, is they'll put a little dish of hoisin on the side.
Right.
They take their meat out of the pho and dip it in the hoisin.
Yeah. I tell you that oxtail pho at Baba. Use oxtail for your pho, and you won't have any problem with taste. Tastes really good.
I love a light broth just as much as maybe even more than a heavy rich broth.
It's not heavy or rich. It's not.
I've had it. It's pretty rich.
It's yeah.
I'm compared to what I've
Right.
become accustomed to. I've never been to Vietnam, so what I've become accustomed to down at Pho Bac and now and places like that, it's a much lighter
Right.
broth. They also make at soup now they have the short rib, where they come out and the big bones are kind of hanging out the top of
Yeah,
the bowl.
you said that. I gotta go check that out. So many restaurants, not enough time.
All right, it's time to cook in our Donabe pot right here at the hot stove. I'm Chef Tom Douglas.
And Terry Rochero, the chef in the hat.
Thanks you all for joining us today. It's been a fun show so far. Annie made me very hungry with her description of making that broth. You notice, if I hadn't stopped her, she would have made the whole segment would have been just on her broth.
Right.
And I think that's the point. If you get the broth perfect,
Totally the point.
yeah, the rest
Yeah.
is
But just
not
the rest,
superfluous, but the broth is really
the rest
key.
is an add-on.
Yeah.
But definitely the base is the broth.
Okay, Pamela. I have a Donabe pot in my house that my daughter gave me. It's big though, and you put this in the show because I believe you would like to own one.
In fact, that is true because what I've been reading about it is they cook differently than metal pans because of the thick clay walls.
Mhm.
So it's known for slow cooking usually, although the enthusiasts say you can use it for everything,
Right.
frying and stuff. But I do love braised things that make a nice rich broth. And the custom is that the whole pot comes to the table as a centerpiece for the family or your guests to ladle from. So that seems very communal and comforting to
Well,
me.
very timely for the weather we're having and all that
Yes.
stuff. It's definitely that kind of time of year where one pot dish sounds really delicious.
And
Um,
the recipe that caught my attention was ginger rice with beef, shiitake mushrooms, carrots, scallions, and snap peas.
Yeah.
And that just sounded like satisfying on
Put the
so
scallion
many
and the snap peas at
different
the end.
levels.
Put the scallion and the snap peas at the end.
At the end, so you had some brightness.
So you have some nice crunchy and brightness of green mixed with that nice little stew.
But
All I can think about when I think of stews like this is the same idea of the Moroccan tagine, where you put something in a dish, you put everything in the dish, and then you walk away, you cover it, put it gently on the fire, and then you walk away and you come back 5 hours later.
beautiful meal.
Voila, everything is ready.
So if you were to go out to the ID today and try and get a Donabe pot on your table at one of the restaurants, I haven't seen too many that actually serve it up that way. And I think partially because in a commercial restaurant kitchen, you only have a certain amount of burners, and to go low and slow on a Donabe pot, I mean, I bet you could achieve some of the same thing if you pop it in the oven at 250 or 300 and get that low and slow boil like you would in a Dutch oven, which is essentially what they are. They mimic, or the Dutch ovens probably mimic
I was going to
these.
say
I was
that
gonna
the
Yeah.
Dutch
these-
oven
Vice
came
versa.
after these.
Yeah. But essentially that's what they are. The place that I've had it the most, where it comes actually in the pot, is the catfish at Monsoon up on Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
Oh.
And they do a nice caramelized
Like a hot pot kind of idea.
hot pot idea, yeah.
Yeah.
But in one of these Donabe style bowls, and it is really delicious, and it accomplishes exactly what you want, what you're craving, which is that, and what you're talking about, Chef, which is just that all the juices from all the parts that are in there come together and
Yeah.
are just kind of unctuous and delicious. And there is some thought that you had thought that maybe the clay imparts some flavors to
Some people
this.
believe that it does.
And
I think
that
it
must be a
takes-
different kind of pot, don't you think? Because
Yeah.
these particular Donabes that we have in front of us are glazed, and I don't know how that would offer. But I
Well,
bet some of the older versions,
right, like Le Creuset pots that we have at home, does take a little bit of a patina after a while. You do have, it's never staying white. Eventually it turns into a darker color a little bit, and like a blonde color on the bottom. You do have a little patina and a little flavor that's left in there, but it's definitely faint compared to if you had a cast iron pan, for example, that would be a little bit porous and get all that flavor in there and keep it in there. That's a little bit different of a thing. But more importantly, I think it's a great idea because they make them beautiful to put on the table. And it's a great dish to go from the stove, from the oven, all the way up onto the table, and everybody serve themselves. So it's cool.
so this recipe that you picked out, you take the rice and you strain it, right? Or not strain it, you rinse it, and you put it in, and you actually are putting it in with lentils.
I know
Something
that's
I hadn't really thought much
I
about.
like that combo.
At the same time,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the separate pan, they're actually caramelizing onions and then adding it to the Donabe pot,
so it
with
takes
the rice and the
same amount of
lentils.
time to cook the rice as it does the lentil. Interesting.
and probably the onions, pretty much.
Wow.
With cinnamon and allspice, and then cover the Donabe with a lid and make sure there's a hole in it, like they all do, to release steam.
Right.
And it's just, like I said, unctuous or umami in nature when it comes to the
No
table.
vegetable on top of that?
This one in particular, you could do with they have different versions. Mussels and Chinese sausage, which is that sweet pork sausage,
Right.
that usually has a little bit of star anise in it. Donabe ginger rice is cooked with beef and vegetables, more of a baked rice dish than a brothy dish.
Right.
But I've only had it with broth. When we had it at home, we had wedges of Napa cabbage, and we use the dried shiitakes that are they get kind of spongy, and
Right.
when they rehydrate, they're spongy and add a whole different texture to a dish than, say, a fresh shiitake does. So you can do anything.
Right.
Just like a tagine, you can do anything in it.
One thing you could do is make a nice chuchuka out of that. You could do
A nice what?
your baked eggs into
Oh.
that pan. I'm thinking of the eggs because of our discussion earlier, but you could do some nice baked eggs out of that pan.
Uh-huh.
You just put the eggs, you put the cream, spinach on the bottom, you put your eggs, your cream, you cover it up, and you put it in the oven at 350, and you'll have wonderful baked egg within 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It'd be a nice dish to make for Valentine's Day too, for two to
Oh, yeah.
eat together from a nice steamy pot,
Yeah.
brothy pot.
They come in all different sizes. If you want to be careful to get the right one for you, think about how many people you cook for and how often.
Right.
So, for example, ours is 4 to 6 people. That's a big meal. We don't often
That's a
use it.
commitment.
Whereas if it was just 2, you might use it much more often.
Right.
And you could also think about, if that's the case, you could get 2 of them, so that when you do have 4 people, you just put 2 pots on the
Correct,
table.
correct. Share between 4 people. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
that's true.
But like
Yeah.
Sean said, the way we use them here at Hot Stove the most is to keep the handmade tortillas warm.
Well, you know,
But they're particularly, I mean, that's what
Yeah.
they're good at, is that gentle heat.
Sure.
So if you remember to get them in the oven and get them warmed up, and then you put your beautiful tortillas
that
in.
makes complete sense to me. I mean, that's really nice. That's a
well,
good
in a
idea.
funny way, the effort you put in the homemade tortillas, they deserve a beautiful pot
I
like
like
this
that.
rather than a little
Yeah.
plastic
I know.
mitt or.
Yeah.
I know
or-
all of our friends in Prosser put up their tortillas in those little handmade mitts.
Yeah.
They're so pretty.
Uh,
But this is another nice, elegant vessel.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
No, that's
think this is a more beautiful way to serve tortillas.
Correct. Definitely, you up the game a little
Don't
bit.
forget to put a cloth in there with them, though, because tortillas want to steam when they're tight together like that. They're hot. They go in hot and they want to steam together. That's part of the cooking process.
Right.
But they will drop water onto the bottom, and your bottom tortillas will be soggy if you don't put some sort of little towel or tea
Good,
towel or
good trick of the trade, chef.
cocktail napkin.
Boy,
or
the
something.
pro tips today just keep on coming.
Hey, that's why you listen. That's why you're listening to the Hot Stove Society radio show.
All right. It's Valentine's Day coming up here, and the tradition is wine and chocolate. Should it be?
We're
There-
going to discuss
We're
that.
going to have that discussion when we come back on Cairo Radio 97.3 FM.
Hmm.
You just have to do the research. I really, I'm not an expert, so I can't answer. He asked you, but you look
I
to me.
know.
So
I've only had gas for so long. I don't know. I would think so.
I would think so too. I mean, electric range. Yeah, but Japan. And the outside is unglazed, so I would think yes.
this is unglazed. Just
Yeah.
a foot on this one. Mine at home is unglazed all the way around here.
Oh, really?
but
Normally
it's
it
glazed
is.
in here.
Yeah, normally it's unglazed on the outside, glazed on the inside.
Donabe.
Donabe.
Donabe. Donabe. ABE. Don Abe. Donabe.
I kept saying it and I was like,
Donabe, 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 Donabe.
No, you don't have to write it. He just stole one.
I just made one up. What
Oh,
day
you
is
stole the
today?
music.
Today is Donabe, Donabe.
It's so easy.
I know. I love it. Good audience. Good audience. I love Pam. She's good. She's good. This guy walks into a bar. Ow!
Oh. I think we should do TV.
Did you know that
instead of
about me?
radio.
When I was running down from my neighbor's house to come home to ask if they'd asked if I wanted to stay the night. So I took off running. We shared backyards, and I took off running home to ask my parents if I could go stay. And I forgot that in our backyard we had these chin-up bars.
Oh!
I took them,
Oh!
broke my front teeth in half.
Oh! Jesus! Why do you think of that right now?
Well, because you said when a guy walks into the bar and then you
Oh
went,
yeah. Oh!
ran into the
Oh!
And the best part about this story is I did it twice.
Oh,
Once on my teeth and once on the bridge of my nose.
So one you were shorter than the other
Probably.
because the bar.
But the bar moves. No, the bar moved up and
Oh,
down.
that's true.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a rude awakening.
Oh, my dad put these 6x6 posts in it and just a steel
Yeah.
bar, you know. Good times.
Ow! I'm hurting my teeth.
No.
I had silver teeth when I was a kid up until I was 17 years old. Silver caps on my teeth.
Until they
'Cause
make.
they didn't
one-
want to, my dentist wouldn't put in like regular porcelain caps because he knew I was going to do it again.
Do it again. This crazy kid.
I love
is-
that. We'll do it once you're mature.
You know, I say that, but when I look back at pictures of them, I just got a bunch of pictures from my mom that she had in her collection. Now she's gone, so they got sent to me. But I don't remember seeing any pictures of me with my silver teeth.
You probably didn't smile very
I
much.
probably did.
Oh, you look like the guy in James Bond.
Dr. Hooper. Isn't it though? Yeah. Dun, dun, dun. It's Valentine's Day right here on the Hot Stove Society show. Chef in the chapeau. Your wife is here. What a lovely Valentine's
I
Day
know.
that is.
Your Valentine.
My
Yeah,
Valentine is
Valentine
with
here.
me.
Pam's going to have to be my Valentine. Or Sean. Sean, would you be my
Yeah.
Valentine?
Yeah.
Sean just
Sean's in.
begrudgingly shook his head. Yes. Yeah, sure. Whatever you say, Tom. There's a lot of misnomers about chocolate and wine. And we go back on this conversation many years, not only in our company, but because you used to work at De Laurentiis in the wine shop. You used to be a Theo Chocolate. You're still a shareholder.
And she was part of that craze when we started to install and telling Americans that wine and chocolate
Yeah.
is a good thing.
And then also, I remember over the years when you were at Red Hook Brewery, we did some beer dinners and tried to figure out what goes best with chocolate from a beer standpoint. So where do you stand now on wine and chocolate
20 years later, where do you stand?
40 years later?
Oh,
Yeah.
I forgot about the beer element, but frankly, I think beer is a little friendlier to chocolate than wine. But
So what's your
over
reasoning?
my
Okay.
career, the demand for having wine and chocolate together on Valentine's Day just keeps growing. It
Right.
doesn't go away. And I think both substances bring people so much pleasure that they want to put them together because you associate them with a lovely time.
Mhm.
And both have elements in them that raise your spirits.
Yeah.
So
Quite literally, right?
and I
Quite
think
literally.
I think
Yeah.
if you're already convinced it's going to work,
It's
that's 3/4 of the job.
So
three
let's
quarters of the job. But
so
they-
technically let's talk about why it might not be true.
the people want it with red wine usually, and they immediately go to thoughts of big Cabernets,
Yeah.
for instance. But Cabernets usually have had time in wood, and those heavy tannins are an enemy of the fats in chocolate. So if you have something that is, especially a chocolate that is higher in cacao content, a dark chocolate, it has acids of its own. And then if you put it together with a really tannic red wine, your mouth is just going to dry out into.
It just wants to fight. Yeah.
It just wants to fight into the dusty Sahara.
Which to some might look like it's a match
Yes, yes.
because people keep insisting on it. So
They-
I'm sure some people are convinced that's a good match somehow.
So I think it's our job to try to lead him to a more pleasurable combination. And so the first thing would be if you want a red wine, go with a softer
Right.
grape variety,
Like a Gamay or
a
something.
Gamay, even a Merlot, something that hasn't been had so
Not
much
so-
time in wood.
Right, not so high tannin.
Not so high tannin, and that grape Cabernet just naturally
Right.
is high in tannin.
And then there is the idea of port, which is a sweeter wine, which doesn't have the tannin like young cab or, wine of that nature, which is
Port's a classic.
yeah, port is a classic, but it's there's a reason for that.
It's
why it's a classic.
Sweet and sweet.
Correct. And no tannin, or no high tannin, especially if you take an older port. If you take a 30-year-old port, and for all of you out there who are not sure about port, $150 for a 30, 40-year bottle of port on the market is the cheapest wine you can possibly buy because it's been aging for 35 years and it's only $150 compared to a $20 or $30 bottle of wine that you buy from today. So to me, I think the value is in the aging, and it also is in the beauty of the port not being so high on tannin. The acids have come down. So it's a beautiful match to a
It's
chocolate.
also a fortified wine, so it's a little hotter in a
Right.
funny way.
Right.
It's 20% alcohol compared to 12 to 13% or 14 with high-end cabs. So it's a little hotter and a little more be able to cut through. Because when you eat chocolate, right, there's fat on your palate.
So much
Right.
fat.
Yeah.
But you bring up an excellent point. That whole family of fortified wines, I think one of the best pairings I ever had was with a Madeira.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I think the Madeira, the Oloroso, sherries would be a wonderful direction to go, especially if you were just having it as a after dinner treat of
Mhm.
that little fortified.
There is a fortified wine called Pinot de Charente,
Yes.
which also is a good match with some chocolate, not all chocolate.
Which strength of chocolate would you go for with that?
52% cacao.
So it's pretty
I
light.
wouldn't go 70. That's not as good of a match because you have to remember as you go up in chocolate, in cocoa percentage, it really changes the profile.
Absolutely.
It's much stronger, much more bitter. There's all those different flavor that gets accentuated, that it becomes harder to match. And the 72% cacao is a really hard match to a wine. So
When you think about champagne and chocolate, oftentimes people are celebratory and they want to get a bottle of champagne. Would you go with a demi-sec?
Yes.
So that it's got a little sweetness to go with the sweet chocolate?
Yes.
Okay.
A
A half bottle's perfect.
Honestly,
Honestly, for two, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I found a wonderful reference on the Italy site, actually, that has a great pairing guide. And they started with white chocolate, which I know Tom Douglas likes a little white
I don't
chocolate.
mind a little white
I
chocolate. It feels
now
trashy
and
good
then.
to me.
And their suggestion was Riesling, Moscato d'Asti, and sweet rosés. That sounds perfect.
no Vincento, huh? I'm
Working,
surprised.
no, working up to milk chocolates, Pinot Noir, light Pinot Noirs, Merlots, and Gewürztraminer.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yep. And dark chocolate. So they were about matching intensities. Zinfandel, Cabernet, and Merlot, but staying below 70%. Because if you get up
Right,
into
right.
the 75 and 80, the chocolate tannins take over. And then there were, you also have to think about a lot. People are going to have chocolates with inclusions, or
Right.
their caramels, or and
Nuts or whatever. yeah,
nuts.
yeah.
So that influences what you would want to. And they had a brilliant pairing with a hazelnut chocolate, which is a nut I really love.
And of course,
too.
Nutella is the biggest selling chocolate
no,
nut in
I
the
love-
world. Yeah.
Yeah, I love hazelnut chocolate. That's
They're
cool.
made for each other. And so they suggest a wine from that region, Brachetto, an
Ah.
under-recognized red, often a little frizzante.
Yeah.
And I think that with the hazelnut chocolate.
Well, that's what I remember. The frizzante, I think, is interesting there because that's what I remember when we were talking beer dinners. Was that the frizzante of the beer or the frizzante of the Moscato d'Asti
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
of champagne works towards breaking up some of that fat on your palate from the chocolate. The other one that I love is a good analogy to that is Seattle Chocolates makes their, I think they call it their champagne flavored chocolate or something like that, but it's got a little bit of those crushed, I'm guessing Zotch, the candy that explodes in your mouth a
Oh,
little
yeah,
bit.
yeah.
It's got little crystallized pieces of that in this little truffle, and I love it. It's super fun. Have you ever had that?
No. I'm
But
gonna go look
it
for
does
That's
break up the chocolate.
That sounds good. That sounds fun. Cognac, brandy,
Spirit.
brandy, especially again older brandy. You can find older brandy. That's usually a good match with a very rich cocoa holder. So if you have 70% plus, I think it's something you eat your chocolate and
That's
you take
brilliant.
a light sip of very old cognac. And when I say cognac, it can be an old brandy.
Yeah.
I'm
Eau de
sure
vie
you could
of
do-
pear.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, pear eau de vie with some hazelnut. Oh, that would be good. Oh.
I was going to say, I'm not sure what just happened there, but it's
No, something
Sounded
happened.
delicious.
Something happened.
Well,
Triggered
that-
something.
yes.
The brown liquors. I've been known to have a little sip of bourbon with a little piece of
Yeah,
chocolate.
I mean, bourbon is a good
Really?
example. Bourbon is a good example of when you use chocolate that are high on cocoa. Again, that's a good. I think that's a good match. It's got a light, almost like a smokiness to it. That I think it's light enough to be able to marry with that.
Now
Chocolate.
that is counterintuitive after what you just said about the oak barrels, because all bourbon is aged in oak
I
barrels.
know, but it's the higher alcohol
Okay.
content.
The alcohol, I think, is what saves the day in terms of taming down the tannin. So yeah, I think an old bourbon, I can see that too. But clean brandies, aged.
So the moral of the story, I think, is don't just read a book or you go out and do some of these taste tests on your own because every palate is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
There is no right or wrong. There is just
if you really do love somebody, you'll do the work.
Do the
You'll
homework.
do the research to make sure that you're
if you love somebody, you'll buy them chocolate.
right and buy them something that actually goes with it,
Exactly.
rather than just wine and chocolate.
Look at
or-
Fran's site. She's got so many beautiful. She couldn't come today, but Fran's, our beloved Seattle Chocolate Institution, has some incredible Valentine's Day offerings.
You know, one of the saddest things about my mother passing is that I used to always go to the Fran's and buy her chocolates, and now I have no one to buy chocolates for.
Oh.
I know, because your wife isn't a chocolate
She
fan.
doesn't do chocolate, and my daughter's allergic to it. So
Yeah. I mean,
Sean
Oh,
is
Sean.
going to get my.
Yeah.
That's right. Sean's going to get my chocolate.
I love that.
this
Sean has
year.
not forgotten. You is Valentine.
Dear Sean. It's time for Food for Thought Tasty Trivia, brought to you by Rub with Love Spice Rubs. When we come back on the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM. That's Theo chocolate now.
It's got that little brew lab up on Capitol. Shadow of its former self.
David, you're still having fun?
Hence the 40 years that
You're still having fun, David? Good. Oh, you know what I forgot to talk about? Guinness on tap.
Yeah.
That's really good with chocolate.
Remember we were in Australia, we did have like wine and chocolate tasting
Yeah.
at a winery.
Yeah.
And I was impressed at how good it was. And but I don't think it was just straight chocolate. They were like special chocolate.
Right.
They were-
They had
they
added
were
stuff.
different, you know, and I was amazed at how delicious it was. But the sugar overload after that,
Oh my
I
God.
thought my head was gonna blow.
Yeah, you really like ready for
Doing
something.
wine and that sugar, I was like, okay, okay.
Uh-huh.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Is it filmed in Korea or in the States? In Korea. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So Creole. Let's go to Korea.
I think Kathy should go against you guys.
All right, I'm fine with that. She and her brother can come up here and
Get up here.
All right, Eric, you're on the radio.
Are we gonna be as one?
You're
Yes.
gonna be a team.
No, 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 no. They're good
Yes,
enough.
yes,
Oh,
yes, yes,
Just
yes.
kidding. Just teasing.
You're gonna play tasty trivia.
You sit on that mic over there. Oh, no.
no, Pam's on that mic. You just
Same
have to share a mic.
Yeah.
But you have to talk to the mic, or you're gonna lose a point. So we're gonna
We'll
practice,
decide on what the answer is before we give it.
and then you're gonna pull the mic over, and we're gonna practice. So listen to me
Okay.
and listen to me. You hear the difference? Listen to me.
Hello?
Very
Hello.
nice.
Okay.
Yes.
So a guy walks into a bar. No, a horse walks into a bar, and the bartender says, "Why such a long face?" Right?
A dog walks into a bar. He puts his order to the bartender. He says, "May I have a drink?" And the bartender says, "What's with the pause?"
Okay, enough of that.
Those are 5-year-old jokes. What
Yeah.
you get? What's it? We're on live on YouTube. I can't go to my regular jokes.
Good.
This guy walks into a bar. I'll buy a drink to you. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna go into that one. Ding. Thank you. Little reminder. Back to life.
What's
What's
the
your last
theme
name,
today?
Eric?
So with the trivia, is it a word? Is
Hold
it
on,
like-
I'm gonna explain to you.
No.
Last name is Ensel.
Okay. You have to introduce them.
Kathy Rotaro and Eric Ensel. H or E? E. Ensel.
That is this.
And so like
you
pencil.
they're your family. You
Oh, that's
introduced
right.
them.
I mean, I could have introduced them. No problem.
My
Okay,
bad.
we're back in the hot stove kitchen here. It's time for the wrap up our show with our famous Food for Thought Tasty Trivia Challenge, brought to you by Rub with Love Spice Rubs and Sauces. They're versatile. They provide distinguished layers of flavor to any meal. You just go through each week and just change the adjectives.
Yeah.
Rub with Love can be purchased around the Puget Sound area at stores like Wajimaya, Bartell Drugs, or Metropolitan Markets, plus many more. And also across the country, please visit Atkinson's in Sun Valley, Idaho, Irvine Ranch Market in Los Angeles, or Central Market stores with 10 locations in the Dallas, Houston, San Antonio markets of Texas.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw! All right, Pamela, how do you play the game? And then Terry's going to introduce our third contestant. I guess Annie Elmore was too afraid to come on.
Oh, after.
Yeah. So
Punishing. Punishing.
we actually have some brave volunteers to take us on today, and Terry's going to introduce them after you tell us how to play the
So
game.
our contestant today will be, I take my radio voice. We have my lovely wife, Kathy Roturo.
Woohoo!
Honey, welcome.
It's
Thank you.
Valentine.
It's Valentine. And then a brother, Eric Ansel, is here. Hello, Eric.
Hello, Terry.
This is so cute.
This is very cute. We have brother and sister against you and I, Tom.
No contest.
Yeah, right.
I'm not sure which way that goes.
Exactly.
So each of the three parties is going to get 5 questions related to food. And then we're going to see which of the competitors gets the most right.
And David, our guest out here, our only guest today, is going to win a 3-pack of his choice from our gift shop over of spice rubs and sauces and cookbooks. And blah,
Yay,
blah, blah.
David. All right.
We call it the Chief Pack.
Yes, we do. And it's red.
That's right.
Let's start with you, Chef in the Hat.
Here you go.
What does the French term agrodolce refer to?
Well, first of all, that's actually Italian. Thank you very much. But I'll,
I guess
I'll go with that. It means in French, it's aigre doux, which is sweet and sour.
Well, that is embarrassing. So you get 2
That's a little
points for that. What is the aperitif Bellini from Harry's Bar in Venice made from?
Champagne.
Yes.
Oh, I'm gonna go with
The classic fruit is what I'm looking.
peach.
Exactly. Double right. How much milk is in a cafe
A lot.
macchiato?
There is no milk in cafe macchiato. It's foam. And if you want it wet, you just ask them what level of wetness you want. That's when they add the steam milk.
The foam would be from milk, though.
Yeah, it would be.
The foam is from milk, but it's not milk as in pour milk. It's a foam. I said it.
0.5.
Okay, wife.
Oh!
Wife, what do you say? That's a no-go.
God.
I say that's a no-go.
All right. Fine, you
A
technical.
dollop of foam.
You notice Kathy would not go against you there. so.
Did she say yes or no on that? Oh, my own
Name-
wife.
Brother-in-law put you down.
I know,
under the
right
bus.
away.
All right, number 4. Name some ingredients in the North African sauce chermoula. I know it's a favorite of yours.
Parsley, mint, onion, or shallots,
Mhm.
and lemon.
Oh, cilantro would be one that you often
yeah,
see
cilantro.
too, but I like leading with parsley. That would be more my speed. And finally, please describe what a moussaka is.
Eggplant, and bechamel,
Mhm.
and cheese.
Beautifully done. Well, how'd you score?
I thought that
4 out
was
of 5.
I thought that was an antlered animal.
Yeah, that's
A
what I was
moussaka
going to
with
start.
marinated in sake.
Oh my God, I just saw a moussaka go by.
All right, Kathy and Eric,
All right.
ready for the challenge?
Ready.
One of Italy's greatest gifts to the world is zabayon. What is it?
It's a custard that's made stovetop.
I think we'll take that. An ethereal dessert of egg yolks, marsala, and sugar. Yay!
Yay.
I like
what
cheese.
is Zinfandel?
A red wine.
Exactly.
a grape.
These guys are screaming into the lead.
Wait a minute. They're only at 2.
True or false? Turmeric is related to ginger.
No.
No, it's,
False.
it's true. They are related. What is the name of the FDA approved non-stick sheet that many people are using for baking?
Silpat.
Yes,
Good
absolutely.
one, Kathy.
And in culinary terms, what does it mean to reconstitute?
You guys always close as siblings too?
Yeah.
There's giggling.
Alex, she goes,
They're whispering to each
Practice.
other. Yeah.
Dee, dee, dee. All right, time's up.
So can you repeat the question again, please?
Yeah. in culinary terms, what does it mean to reconstitute something?
That means you kind of revive it. You bring it back to its original consistency.
By
Usually with water.
adding a liquid. Yes.
Wow, 4 to 5.
Wonderful.
Nice job. Nice
4 to
job.
5. We're
So we're
tied.
tied. Oh boy.
Ooh, it's tense in
Tom,
here.
This
Tom,
is
it's your turn.
Tom, is this true or false?
David, would you like to come up and help me? You're my lifeline today.
Shout out if he needs help. Shout out an answer, David. True or false? Purslane is a native succulent of India
Sure.
that has become popular as a salad green in America because of its nutritional content.
And also because it grows in the cracks of a sidewalk.
True or false?
True.
True. Correct. Please describe the unique shape of a Parker house roll.
Oh, wow. The unique shape.
The unique shape. Well, when I make them, so maybe everyone has their own unique shape, but I make them in a muffin tin,
Yes.
and it's got like a little 3 lines. You put 3 balls of dough into the muffin tin, and it kind of blows up into like, I'm not sure what you call it.
A
Is
crown.
it clover? Or, what do you call it? Clover?
A clover. We were looking, and you got there. You want that creasing effect
Yeah.
in the
Right.
top of
Yeah.
it. So we're giving you that one.
Yeah.
Thanks.
What are
So
the
generous.
3 flavors in Neapolitan ice cream, and what is the shape?
Well, it reminds me of Neapolitan pizza. So it would
No.
be pepperoni, cheese, strawberry, vanilla, and cioccolato.
And what shape would you expect to get it in?
Kind of a loaf shape.
In a
right?
brick.
So that it's in a layer.
Did you grow up with those
I
individual ones that were wrapped
absolutely
and you
did.
just, I want that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was never, I was
That
a chocolate
great.
mint guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was always a chocolate mint guy.
Tuna
That's good.
is
It was green
Yeah.
chocolate.
a member of the mackerel family, and there are many members. Name some other members of this mackerel family.
Skipjack would
Yep.
be one. That Norwegian mackerel that I believe, is that Norwegian, that fatty mackerel that we buy at Saba?
Saba, yeah.
Is it farm raised or not?
I don't think so.
I don't know either. It's super delicious. I love that. It's my
Yeah.
favorite at a sushi bar. It's also the cheapest, which is always a good combination when it's your favorite
Yeah.
and the cheapest.
But
So-
the other tunas, besides
But
skipjack.
herring, anchovies can be in that same family. All sorts of things. But other types of tuna, like
Yeah, other
oh,
tunas.
So ahi, big eye.
Yep.
Yeah. Albacore.
Okay, I think that's a yes.
He's
too.
got 4 so
I thought you
far.
wanted
Okay,
other
this is-
species.
No. Is scaramoza a bread variety or a cheese?
They smoked mozzarella.
Yes. 5 out of 5.
Winner!
Wow.
And you are buying David a 3-pack of rub.
Congratulations, David. Go Chiefs, and then lose to the 49ers. Because that Brock Purdy story is pretty impressive, that little rookie quarterback that they have. Thanks all for joining us today. If you want to be part of the show, you can join the community on YouTube Live at Tom Douglas and Company. We're on Cairo Radio, as you know, and the show is produced by the fabulous Pamela Hinckley. Sean McFadden is our technical editor, and our live editor, our content editor is Sean Don't Call Me Del Torre. The show's also, remember, if you miss any episode of our Hot Stove Society show on Cairo, You can listen via podcast. Just subscribe with your favorite podcast app.
Thanks for listening and have a wonderful Valentine's weekend.
Absolutely.
We were a little behind it.
If I don't do it, it don't work.
Okay, quiet on the set. That includes you, Annie. She can hear me. Hi, I'm Chef Tom Douglas.
And I'm Thierry Rotiro, the chef in the hat.
This afternoon on the Hot Stove Society radio show, we talk about vegetable butchery, Donabe pots, homemade pho, and Etta's Big Mountain Barbecue.
Yeah, it's a wrap. Thank you, everyone, for coming in.
Yeah.